Hello, hello, everybody. I'm super excited today for this episode. This is episode 2 of Mantegrity. And today, my guests are some of my really good friends, Desiree and David the Man. He said that's what he wanted to be called, so that's what he gets today. David the Man.
The
How
man.
are you guys? How is everything going?
Doing great.
Doing real good.
Yes,
Yeah.
love it, love it. Yes, before the episode, we had a fruitful discussion about a lot of things, and one of the big things that came up was the impact that a parents can have on developing men, right? And so we didn't get too far into that, so I wanted to start with that piece there. Um, you know, I guess one question is like, was it difficult to start this conversation with your son? And again, your son is how old?
17.
17. Okay, got you. And was there any sort of like, oh, like how should we approach this? Or like, is he going to take it any sort of way? Or,
No, actually, he started the conversation about,
okay,
and it was one thing that led into another, but it was like, having conversations with his girlfriend earlier in the day. He's like, I realized like I treated you really bad when I was younger. And then it just went from one thing to another. But then I was like, but we can't, like, can you control the past? Can you change it? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay, then we focus on the beginning. But one of the big things is, and it was a realization for me as well, as that his dad has never said he was proud of him. And so he really looks for, and I think that's, he was taught like, if he's crying, suck it up, you don't cry, you deal with it. And for me, I'm like, cry if you want, let it out. So me and him have a totally different relationship when it comes to that.
yeah. And David the Man, what was your role in this situation?
I was not present.
Oh, you weren't present. Got you, got you.
No, I was not there.
Does that mean like you don't get involved in these things, or you just weren't there for that situation?
Um, I would say that I wasn't there for that situation. I heard about it later.
Yeah.
Um,
Gotcha. If you were there, like, what do you think you would have wanted to say?
I don't think I would have needed to say anything. It would have been
Yeah.
interesting to listen to.
Okay.
Um, I have two daughters.
Okay.
Um, they're both, grown, mostly grown, 18 and 21, 22. I never had any sons. So when I'm around Desiree and her kids, I get to experience the son side of things, which is different. It's really different than the daughter side of things. Um, so I'm always intrigued by it. I'm always, watching, trying to figure out the dynamics between the parent and the kid and the mom and the son.
Can you get into the details of like how is it different? I'm sure there's plenty, but like what's like something that strikes you as like, oh, this is interesting.
Um, well, I would say in this particular example, I don't know if this is true all the time or not, but her son has some, I would call it young energy violence to him. He gets
Okay.
to slamming and banging and knocking holes in walls sometimes when he's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when he's in his feelings. And and I've never really had that from daughters. My daughters, at least, when they had issues, I would say maybe a little more hidden, a little more sneaky, things like trying to set my sofa on fire. So it's not like they're not violent, it's just a different way, it's a different approach. And it's interesting to see the young boy side, which just seems to be like in your face. And where I come from, in my kids, it's more I'm going to go around your back. I'm going to, go out to the car and steal candy out of your car, or something like
Vindictive.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's more, yeah, that's a good word. Maybe it is
Yeah.
vindictive.
Yeah. That's interesting. And do you think that was nurture or nature or both, right? Is that man's nature to be more destructive in emotion, or is it nature, like how they're raised?
Mm.
I'm gonna say both, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think it's not um when he was younger, and this is, why I've done a lot of training to change myself as a parent, but I did not let my children express their feelings when they were younger because I thought it was back talking because that's what I was taught.
Hmm.
So it wasn't until they were older, he was probably 12, 13, where I'm like, okay, it's actually you're expressing yourself. And my kids have always told me, like, we give you more hell because we feel the safest and the most comfortable with you. So I would much rather them do that here with me and let it all out and be able to process their feelings. So now it's more into like a healthier coping mechanism. Like, okay, I'm angry, but I'm gonna, like, he cleaned the whole house the other morning, which was great. But
Well,
it's learning how to have the healthy coping and the tools to let the anger out in a good way, and not do it in a and it's not even a good or a bad way. It is what it is. It's like if you hit the wall, you hit the wall. And I
yeah.
was always telling him, go outside and punch a tree, you
Yeah.
know. So
Wood is wood,
um
right?
yeah. So I definitely think it comes from both sides.
Yeah, I would also say a little bit of both. So nurture versus nature. I think all kids get some portion of their parents. Yeah. But from the nature side of things, um, I would say that humans, the human species as general, young men, they do display, right? In the animal kingdom, you have display, right? Racking their horns together to draw female attention. And I think that's entwined in the DNA. So that's why I think young boys tend to act out and, show a lot of aggression or whatever. I think it's just built into the display factor of, you know, trying to create more kids, you know.
That's interesting. So you're saying it's nurture and nature, and it comes from the animal kingdom, where it's just like, all right, the most aggressive male is going to be able to procreate and have their family legacy kind of live on, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and that's why young girls, if you ever notice, they give young boys that do that a lot more attention than the ones who are quiet in the background in the chess club, math geeks. They don't
yeah,
come into play until later when they're making all the money. And the jocks up front are the ones that get all the attention.
I mean, you're not wrong now that I think about it. You're not wrong.
Oh, I mean,
so
it's just like deer in the wild or any animal.
Huh. That was just a light bulb for me that just happened.
okay, yeah, I saw the light bulb go off. So what's opening up for you? Opening up, Jesus. What's what's happening with you?
Just, I yeah, what's opening up for me.
Yeah,
It brings me back to when I was in high school, and like I didn't like the quiet ones. And it was,
yeah.
this guy was a quiet one, so but yeah, I went after not even like jocks or whatever, but like more vocal, more, I don't know what the word is that I want to use.
More likely to be the bad boy.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess we would say that. Yeah.
And
I had
yeah,
questionable
and
choices when I dated.
okay, so that's the funny thing. So um in our last episode, we got into this concept of bad boy, right? And you know, I I said, yeah, like I don't feel like I ever did the whole bad boy thing, right? Like I never was that. And again, it makes me feel like, oh, maybe I should be an asshole, right? We we got into this concept of asshole. Like the word asshole can be like, oh, he's such an asshole, or oh, he's such an asshole, right? Like it's just like playful asshole and like
Yeah.
really a fucking asshole, right? And coming from a guy that's been like nice guy, right? You feel again like, do I need to be a dick to like get a get who I want? And the answer is obviously no. And what we got into was when, and this not might not be the case for all women, but for some, when in that bad boy phase, a woman is coming from not a healthy place, right? Like when they're looking for someone that is like not a great person in any sort of way and just kind of is selfish and vocal and loud and whatever. Um, and so there is that like bad boy phase that happens. And then later on, when you have an epiphany of like, oh my gosh, like I've dated a string of these a-holes, like what's wrong with me? Like you know, let me change
Yep.
this up, or like what am I doing to attract this, right? So like what's your opinion on that? You know?
Well, it's kind of funny that because this kind of like this brings back. So me and him met on online dating.
Yeah.
So we matched. I'd get irritated because men were freaking crazy on it. I'd delete it.
Sure.
I'd be like, well, I'll try it again. Get back on there. We matched 3 times. And as he tells it, I stood him up 3 times. But then he was like, the third conversation, he was like, you don't remember we were supposed to go meet? And I was like, no, not really. So like he kind of looked like, what the heck? And then I was like, oh hey. And so he had to get a little bad on me before I was like, oh yeah. But yeah, and don't ask me where or I'm even going with that because I don't even know. But it just resonated with what you just said. But yeah. What and then I then forgot the questions.
The
No,
question
no.
was,
So I think you were like this when I was like a string of bad boys. So like
Oh God, yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah. And yeah, like I dated, there was quite a few. And now I look back and I'm like, what was I thinking? Um,
Well, what were you
and
thinking, right? Like that's the question. Is like what
no, you weren't.
exactly?
I think I was rebelling.
You're in automatic mode.
Yeah, that too.
And in automatic mode, what basis do we all live under? And it's safety and security, right?
Well, I wasn't going to them for that.
But yeah, they actually you were. And if you'll hear
You
me
won't
out.
know, Desiree. David the man is
So the
talking.
reason that the bad boy is safe and secure is because it's not actually about the moment. When you're procreating kids for the future, it's actually an ingrained thing that this bad boy will supply you with protection. It's perceived protection from every other guy out there. Because if he's an ass, he's not going to let someone else come in and do anything or take over or take from you. Right. And then his genes, I think the chemistry of the human says that those genes are going to be good for long-term um, child production. And I think it goes back to when we were way less civilized than we are now, when you had to be a bad boy to live in the jungle. If you didn't, if you didn't have those basic bad boy skills, the nice, whatever you want to, if you believe in we came from gorillas or not, it doesn't matter. The nice gorilla didn't eat, right? He got his food taken from. And the bad boy gorilla cook that food.
I mean,
I mean, if you
I would like to hear Desiree's opinion as well.
um, I mean, I can see that, but at the same time,
it's part of it.
I mean, yeah, it's part of it, but for me, it was more rebellion. My parents told me not to date him, like legit. Don't date him. He's an idiot. And I was like, I'm gonna do what I want. I'm 18. Learned that the hard way. Not once, but twice. My parents both was like, do not date that guy. He is no good for you. Don't do it. And I still did it.
But that's one. You said you had a string.
Well, I mean, there was Raymond, there was Cy. I mean, those were like and there was Kane. There was a couple.
Those
Yeah.
sound like asshole names.
Yeah. Oh, and
Raymond Kane and what the fuck? Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, and I did. I took like 12 years off from dating altogether and was just like, I'm done with men and just focused on raising kids.
Well, like, what attracted you to these two? Like, the first one was rebellion, but the second one couldn't have, and the third one couldn't have been rebellion because your parents probably didn't know about them or anything, right?
Okay, for my ex Cy, it was how he showed up to me at first. Like he was loving, charismatic, um, love bombed me, and then became a narcissist. And I was like, oh shit, I've never dealt with this my whole entire life. What is this? And it was all the showering at first, I guess, that I wasn't used to. And I'm gonna probably say it goes back to my childhood of not seeing healthy relationships with my parents. I mean, like they were married for 40 some years before they passed away, but like they were not in a healthy relationship. So
Yeah.
I guess I looked for unhealthy relationships. And even now, like we have a very healthy relationship, but sometimes I still am like, oh shit, what is this healthy relationship like?
Yeah.
Because I'm used to chaos. So
Yeah.
it's new to me. So
That's interesting. Yeah.
I would say I was looking for the unhealthy relationship that I saw in my parents, and because I didn't know any better.
Got it. And what, I guess, what was the rock bottom, and then what was the epiphany? Like, how did you make that switch from like bad boy to like, okay, I need like a man that is of integrity, is of
I was going to end up in
honor,
prison.
oh, there was a guy that ended up in prison.
I was going to kill him. Legit.
Oh,
Like he done
yeah,
pushed me to my breaking point. Like
yeah,
just pushed me. And I think I tried so hard because, as my son's father, but like the mental abuse, like I legit thought I was crazy. And come to find out I wasn't. Like but then I also had a fear of like what was going to happen when I did leave. But I mean, he put me out, made me and Silas, my son Silas, sleep in the car because he was pissed off at me. Or, like he did all these things. And then so it just kept pushing me and pushing me like I was gonna kill him. So
I mean,
I
go
made
ahead.
arrangements and up and moved. and I just started healing myself and learning to love myself again. That when I did finally go and start dating, there was just a connection between me and him at first, even though I felt like he was always blowing me off afterwards. But I felt a connection with him, and it was how he showed up, especially with his kids. Like his relationship with his kids is what made me look at him and be like, okay, he's actually a great person.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I think what's interesting about that is when you make that shift. I have one question, which is what makes you stay in that type of abusive relation. I mean, that always fascinates me. Like when I watch serial killer documentaries or like any of these documentaries where women are like literally abused, and like what makes someone stay in that situation?
It's fear.
Yeah.
It's you have been beat down so much mentally and verbally that you don't believe in yourself. So you don't even have the strength or the courage to flee.
Mm.
Um, I call my ex a vampire. He sucked me, drained me emotionally, physically, mentally, financially,
Yeah.
my soul. Like he depleted every part of me.
Crazy.
So it I wish I had the magic answer and I could be like, this is why I, stayed, but I really don't. I think it comes down to fear and just not believing in myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything opening up for you, David? You were nodding your head at a lot of this.
Yeah, when it comes to staying in toxic relationships, and that could be in a lot of ways, right? Even work or anything. I think a lot of it comes down to like a hope where you just have this sort of ingrained hope that it's going to get better. I can fix it.
Mm, yeah.
Um, you know,
I thought I could fix it.
yeah, everybody does. Everyone does. Like I thought I could fix mine, I wanted to even like, it's almost like saying giving up, you know, I, I don't want to give up on it. I'm invested, right? I have an invested interest and I'm already in, you know, this much. So why would I want to go now? It's blind. Love is blind.
Love is blind. Yeah, you're right. Would you be able to talk about like your last, the one that you were just talking about? Like you wanted to fix which one?
Yeah. So I was married for 19, almost 20 years. Um, and that's where I have my two daughters from.
Yeah.
And the relationship was really good for the first probably 5, maybe 7, somewhere between 7 and 10 or 12. It started getting bad, and then after like 12, it just really tanked. And I've heard all kinds of stuff, and I stayed because of the kids for a long time. They were little. They were still little.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where, you know, the way I saw the relationship was that I was no longer the focus of the, abuse, but it was starting to cascade onto the children. And that is when I can't do that. Like I can take it all day long, right? You can throw buckets of shit at me all day long. I'm fine. But you're gonna throw something at my kid, we're gonna fight. And this is from somebody who was supposed to be on my team. Like we were supposed to be together as a unit doing this. And instead it's like being stabbed in the back all the time. And eventually, I had to work through the process in my mind of enough's enough. Like I can't, my job is to protect these kids, and to do that, you're gonna have to go. You got to go. You got to get. It's time for you to go.
Yeah.
And I think really ultimately she wanted to go. I think she wanted to leave, and that might have been part of it. But I can't speak for her. I don't know what her. I'm sure she has her own version of the story, like everyone does.
Well, you never got to talk to her about it later.
What's that?
You never got to talk about it with her later.
Not successfully, no.
Oh, you attempted
No.
to do it.
Yeah, oh yeah, many times. She has her idea of what things are like, and I have mine, and we don't share the same version of reality. And you can't really talk about that until it's just not talk aboutable.
Yeah. I love that. And I wanted to understand, um, and I keep wanting to use Atlas terms, like what ways of being as a man like allowed you to make that decision to be like, hey, like
Mhm.
you're not going to like treat my children like this. Like you can talk to me as much as you want, talk shit and whatever, but like it's not gonna. I'm putting my foot down. You know.
Well, um, I'm not sure if there was a question in there or not, but I'll say that for me, it was a it was scary, right? It was fearful.
Yeah.
This is my ex-wife. She's a powerful person. I mean, I'm not going to take that away from her. I think she abuses that power, but she's very demanding, very needy, very much a taker. And I was losing my trust, right? So, I had trust in her for a long time, and then as I started to understand her way of being, which is, you know, t- you know, being a taker, um, it started to wreck my trust. And then when she started doing it to the children, that just like the trust got wrecked. And trust is one of those things that's important. It takes a long time to build, and it can be destroyed in an instant.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where I came from, was okay, I now no longer can trust you. And that was like the breaking point. That was the straw that broke the camel. And that's when everything really just, went the wrong way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, most strong relationships are built on trust, right? And like it's it's easy to like build trust, or it's hard to build trust, and then it's like so easy to break trust. And then once you break trust, it's hard to like build it back up. Damn near impossible, right?
Yeah, it can be.
Well, that I think the trust and how do you always put it? Like and like we're in alignment with what we want in life. We're in alignment with what we want with our family. We're in alignment with what we want long term. So that makes a difference when you have somebody that I'll support him, he supports me, but we're not taking from each other. We're building for the future.
Yeah.
So that's been very beneficial, especially for us,
Makes sense.
and just understanding and communication. My God, communication's key.
Yeah, that's the thing. Trust and communication. Like that's
Yeah,
when you have that, like everything else can kind of fall into place.
yeah,
It's crazy.
for sure. And it's like for me, I guess what I see him, and we kind of had a kind of weird conversation about last night because I was like, I submit to you, and he's like, well, what do you mean by submit it? Because no, you don't. And but like I know you've heard the saying like a woman will like submit to a man, surrender to a man when he is confident and
Yeah.
powerful within himself. That's what I was trying to say last night. Like I could not put it into words. But like he is very confident, he's very powerful in the way he handles life and everyday everything. So like I would have no issue with like, okay, I got you, I trust you, whatever you say.
Yeah. What? That was cute.
What was that look for?
Except when you say no.
Oh, that's just a habit I'm learning how to break. So I say no to everything. Like he'll be like, the sun's out, and I'm like, no, it's not. Oh yeah, it is.
What?
That's an automatic response for me. So I'm learning how to say no. It's a hard break.
I want to get into this discussion of dominant versus submit. You know, submit. Um, does so? What does that do for you when you are submissive? Like, it's like, does it bring you pleasure? Is it bring you relief? Like, why is it like, okay, like this guy's got it and I'm good. You know, like what makes you want to submit, I guess.
To
Like
be honest,
it's not a thought in a guy's head. You know, I mean,
no,
maybe, but, right.
it's like the trust. Like I have total trust and confidence in him to be that. But it's not like I'm always submissive in the relationship because sometimes I'm dominant because I have that power and sometimes he's submissive. So we have an equal, we go back and forth with it with certain things, I think. I mean, what's your opinion?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and for me, it's the trust. Like I trust him to be able to have that submissive personality when I'm with him.
Yeah. And is your version of dominant the same as David's version of dominant?
Probably not.
Probably not.
What What do you think your version of dominant is when you're in your dominance?
Ooh, that's a good question. Mm,
Or is it easier for you to observe dominance?
I mean, it's both.
Yeah.
I would say like I will be dominant about something. It's like we're gonna do this, and he's like, okay, we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
But I've learned also, and I don't think I really say like we're gonna do this. I'm like, hey, do you want to do this? So I ask for permission, but also am dominant in asking for that permission. If that makes any weird sense, it does in my head.
I think what I'm hearing is dominant for you is making decisions.
Yes.
And David the man, what is dominant for you?
Um, I think that relationships, you can say dominant, submissive. It's also like parent child.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a relationship of one person can be needy and the other person can be supportive, or one person can be. Let's use the classic example when the woman says, let's go to dinner tonight."
Yeah.
Right? Classic, right? Well, where do you want to go? You pick it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to Frank's Steakhouse. No, I don't like that place.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what am I picking it for? Right? Like you tell me your short list or you give me something. So to me, in that scenario, you've got like the woman in this case is being needy. Like, I need you to pick a place that I like because I like it without me having to say it. Right. And that is, in fact, it's actually dominant when you really look at it. It's just underhandedly
Yeah.
dominant. And the guy, is either going to respond with, "We're going to fucking Frank's Steakhouse because I said so," which is overpoweringly, dominant, or, "Okay, I know you like this salad shop. So, how about we go to this salad shop and I'll get a burger on the way home." And so that's like, and so in some relationships, I think there are, I'm going to use my mom and dad as a classic example. My mom is always, she can't make a decision. She will never make a decision. My dad made all the decisions. She didn't even ask. Like, it just wasn't even a thing. And so they had that parent-child relationship where she was always expecting him to make the choices, make the decisions. And then I've seen that in reverse, where the woman does it all and the man doesn't. They call that henpecked or whatever. But if both people are happy in that relationship, it's fine. What me and Desiree have, I think, is this relationship where we can flip flop that back and forth. She can get sick and be needy, and I can support her in that. I can be the one who comes and says, "Hey, this is what you need to do," and I can also be that way. I can be, I can't deal with these people. Can you call them and handle it, you know, and she's good with that. And we go back and forth. We have this thing where we can kind of go back and forth with that. And um but I think that also comes right back to the good trust and the good communication, you know.
Desiree, when we were talking about that example, you were like, I felt like you had something to say as well because, and I want to know the woman's perspective because this in comedy, like that is the joke that a lot of comedians go for, and it works every single time. Every single sketch that I've seen, every single stand-up bit about picking a restaurant, it kills, and because it's true. But I don't really understand the why behind it. I mean, I think David said his perspective. I wanted to understand your perspective.
Because sometimes I really don't even know, and I just want him to pick the damn place to begin with.
Yeah. But then why say no?
Thank you. Great question. And I'm eagerly awaiting the response.
Right? Like if that's the motivation, then just say yes.
Okay, because maybe secretly deep down, I want you to name off a couple restaurants until I figure out which one I want to eat at because I'm so damn indecisive.
Okay, write that down because that's page 1 of the book.
This is
Right there.
So,
That's the answer.
Because I'm so indecisive, I just want you to name off some places and then whatever one like speaks out to me, that's what we'll go have.
but then
That's exactly what it is.
going back to
It's so simple.
communication, right? So then
Yeah.
clear communication would be, hey, can you name off a couple restaurants and not you pick. You pick means okay, whichever one, that's the one we're going with, right? Clear communication would be, hey, I don't really know. Can you give me a couple of options and then let's decide together? Why not that?
It's actually a good point, for real. Look at that breakthrough we just had.
But I'm saying that's nature, right? Like I don't know what it is, but it's there across every male female dynamic that I've ever come across, and that's why it's funny in comedy and whatever, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
it is. And I think it's, for me, I think it's because like we see so much of it in society.
Yeah.
And with social media, like we've had that stigma put on us with like what roles we're supposed to be in the relationship. So like we're, for me, I guess I just went along with it. And I would say it's probably just more of being in the automatic than even real like digging deep and looking to like why I even say that. Like, well, you pick. No. Because it's so automatic. And I don't want to tell you, well, I want you, so that it's kind of really so damn simple that I don't even. I know.
It's so damn simple.
It is. Maybe I just wanted to make it complicated that time.
It's not that time, right? Like the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So like that's why it's so frustrating between male and female dynamics because the communication, yes, it's there at times when it's important, but then
Mhm.
when it's not important, like there's this weird like undertone, not undertone, but like
Disconnect.
we need to read your mind sometimes, and then when we don't read it right, we're wrong. You know what I'm saying? And then it becomes a thing.
Literally, okay, so like that was part of when we first started dating. He's like, I can't read your mind, so just have to tell me. So like he made that like straight out from jump.
Yeah.
So
That,
and
but I don't know if
for
it's women's nature to be that direct, whereas men, it's just like we're always fixing things. We have a problem, we're trying to fix it, we'll find a solution, and that's it, right? Like there's no other gray area, and I don't. And
we
then
see in every color.
yeah, yeah.
It's bad. It's, I mean, literally. Like we're riding down the road, we're gonna run out. Like I plan out what happens if we crash off the side of the road and we need help. Like we see in every dimension. It's ridiculous how crazy. So yeah, like where y'all are black or white, gray, it's very simple and like we overcomplicate things sometimes. I'm an overthinker, so that doesn't help. But I've also been so mine comes back for me and everybody is different, but for me, I think my fear of saying something or communication beforehand was how the other person responded to it. Because before, like the past relationship, whenever I would say something, that's not what happened. You're making that up. Wherefore, there was no trust, so there was fear to be able to communicate. But when you have the communication and the trust, then you don't have that fear with it. So it does make a difference.
And the fear is the fear of losing the relationship.
A fear of judgment, fear of how the other person's going to react to you. The fear of yeah, I guess it could be losing the relationship because like if you're 100% honest with that person, like what if they don't like it? They're, majority of the people will run.
But that
So,
honesty will come out later on, right? Like, so
yeah.
better to just go in like, hey, this is who I am. Put the cards on the table. If you like it, you like it. If not, like, we're not meant to.
Yeah. And I think in this day and age, you have to look a certain way, you have to do a certain way to be accepted, and it's all about being accepted. Um, and so you hide your true self, and so we're so accustomed to that when you go into a new relationship, you're trying to be who you think they want you to be. Like, have you seen that movie? Oh gosh, what is it? I'm forgetting it, but literally, like, she changed her whole persona of who she was just to get a guy. And when she started dating him, she realized this dude it's not for me. But why have to change yourself? So yeah, we do that a lot.
There's a lot of those movies, the like makeover movies, the nerd to whatever, right? Like, and then yeah,
Yeah,
the solution or the conclusion is always like you were fine the way you were,
yeah,
but then they keep the makeover part.
right.
There's actually a really good book I read called The Truth in Dating. Someone who's called.
Yeah, you told me about that book.
Did you read it?
No, but you told me.
I told you to read it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh.
And you submitted to that.
Okay. Well, you'll have to write it down for me to remember.
Okay.
I read part of it when I was at your house.
Don't put your neediness on me. You write it down. You got a phone. Schedule a text.
What was the takeaway for you in that book?
What's that?
What was the takeaway for you in that book?
It's exactly what you said just a few minutes ago about it's a whole lot better to come as you are. This is who I am. This is reality. You like me or you don't. And you have to be the same way. Don't bring your false self to me. Don't color your hair and get your boobs done and all of this stuff. And then, I'm gonna figure it out at some point that might not be what that's not. Just come real. Just be real.
Yeah.
A friend of mine talks about this idea about expectations.
Mhm.
So you have, expectations here, realities here. You ain't happy. Ain't nobody happy. Right. And one of two things has to happen. You either have to change reality, which can be tough.
Yeah.
Right. As an example, I heard you say earlier that you're short.
Yeah.
Right. You either going to change that reality, maybe not. Probably not. I don't know. They might have shin surgeries by now. I don't know.
Shin surgery. They do.
But changing the expectation is way more realistic to get integrity, right? Is when things line up. That's what integrity is. words and actions line up, when parts in a machine line up. It's about lining things up, integrity. So I think it's important to be authentic, be real, and I'll tell you something else about online dating, man. There's a lot of numbers and data out there now about the fact that, like, on some of these dating sites, there's more robots on dating sites than people now.
Sure.
And if you look at those, how do you even know what you're looking at? Is it real? Is it not real? Like, am I judging myself based on these artificial whatever pictures or bios or whatever? I don't know. I'm just who I am, and that's all I can be. And I got to find somebody that wants that.
Yeah. And I want to get into.
Hey, baby.
10 minutes. Great discussion. Online dating and the effect it has on your mental um, wellness. Like, what was your experience?
It was total shit.
Yeah.
Online dating for me was iffy. I probably only had maybe 3 real dates out of it. Most of it was, a couple of text messages and gone, or a date, maybe 2 and gone. Or people who were there that I liked, that we had good conversations with, and then they disappeared multiple times.
Yeah.
Felt a little shade on that one.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, I found a great woman, who likes me and I like her. And
Yeah.
so
Ultimately,
even though I hate it, I love it.
yeah. But I think, like, in the pursuit, there is a lot of psychological damage that starts to happen.
It can be,
right?
I think if you're going in for the wrong reasons.
What are the
What was the wrong reason? Yeah.
The wrong reasons to go on online dating is to get like pumped up by someone else. Like, I want a bunch of hits.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I've heard of women who, or I'm sure men do this too, but I heard about it as women who go online, set up an account to see how many hits they can get. Right? It's a confidence builder. It's a boost. Well, you're not gonna do well. Like, that's not even real.
Yeah, and I think it's like digging through the trash for women, and for men, it's like, geez, like, when is this next hit gonna come? And like,
Yeah.
for me personally, like, I fucking hate it, and I judge myself so much if I don't get a match, and if you're just swiping and swiping and swiping, you're just like, ugly, like, what's happening?
I mean, for me, it's how can you go in, like, that's basically a dating app is telling you that you need to have judgment, because you're literally looking at somebody's picture and profile and you have to make a decision whether or not you want to connect with them. Like, for me, it's judgmental. And for online dating, for me, was just freaking stupid, because it was like this expectation that people, like, men had set. Like, if you didn't respond to them immediately, it was like, why are you blowing me off? And why are you doing? And I'm like, I do have a life, I do have a job. And so, like, for me, that was a total turn off. And that's just why I kept deleting it. And just because, for me, some of the men were very aggressive, or they just wanted sex, or they'd send you dick pics. You know what I'm saying? Like, sorry, bro, I don't want to see this. Like, if I'm here for this, and they do have those options where you can select if you just want to hook up or not. But if you're not there for the right reason, it's a mess. And I don't know, somehow I got lucky. I'm the one in the million.
No, people get lucky. I think it's like 1 in 3 marriages happen because of online dating.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy. I need to do a whole episode on dick pics. Honestly, like, it is pervasive. I don't really understand. like what's the lack? I don't understand the motivation at all. I mean, outside of like love me, you know, like I need you to like I need you to like this, you know. And I think it's just a lot of insecurity that shows up on online, and then that's why you get all these men that are just like, "Oh, you didn't respond in time," and you know, what the heck is wrong with you? And you know, then if you like your whole inbox is probably full of disgusting stuff, you know, and
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I would really like to dive deep into that. Like, what is the state of men today on online dating, and is it getting worse because of online dating? You know, like,
I want to say it is getting worse with online
they,
dating.
did they show up like that, or did they show up normal and then online dating made it worse?
Well, I think online dating is you can pretend who you want to be. And so it's not like you're going out and meeting meeting whoever it is in person. Like back in the day when, you go out and have drinks or whatever, you meet the person, hey, let's go out on a date, like totally different. Like, because you get to see automatically, like, if there is some type of chemistry there between the two. And then online dating, like, let me make sure I have a filter on my face. Let me make sure my hair looks perfect. Guess what? You don't always look like that, honey. Like, I don't always look like that. I always look like I woke up out of bed. I look good one day a month. And so, we put that out there, and like you really don't know. So I think we're just building something that we overall want, but it's not even truthful. And so that puts in an expectation of like what should have and what we should get out of it. And it's not even real.
Yeah.
I think online dating, and I do think you could do a whole show on this. So I'm not going to go too deep on it. But what I'll say is that my experience of it is you have two kinds of people in relationships. This goes back to what I'm saying about what are you here for? Some of it's very immature, and then you have a more mature uh, level of dating, profile, honesty. And so if you're in the mature side of the thing and you're fishing over here in the amateur pond, you're never going to be happy.
Right.
And if you're, if you're putting yourself out there in an amateur way, meaning filters and fake, and, I'm just blowing you up to get sex, then you're never going to get anything out of the mature side of thing that's really going to last. And so to me, all of it goes back to the question, what are you here for? What are you here for? And once you figure that out, then you know where to fish, how to fish, what fish you're looking for. And they're out there. I mean, it's all out there.
Yeah.
It's just, when you just like pulling a slot machine handle, hoping you get lucky, that's not, you gotta have some focus, you gotta have some drive, you gotta know what you're looking at, and then how to figure out how to move towards those results.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a huge, huge topic. Yeah. That's just like the surface level of what's going on. I'm excited to delve into that. I'm hoping to get like a psychologist that is like really knows like what is happening like to the population of people that over the last like 10 years of online dating and how that's
Mhm.
affecting people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I mean, this was such a great conversation. I had so much fun. There was so much insight. We had a breakthrough. So fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Please come back
You
again.
want some,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna say, you want some more good laughs to bring us back on. This is a lot of fun. We've never done one before, so
There's a podcast before.
no.
It's a good time. It's a good time. Well,
Yeah.
thank you guys. Signing off. This has been episode 2 of Mantegrity.
Thank you. Bye.